Hello everyone, this video teaches you how to find unknown constants in an identity. The previous video teaches what is an identity. For example, this equation. Identities have two characteristics. The first characteristic is that the left-hand side and the right-hand side are exactly the same after simplification. For example, by expanding the right-hand side, we get 6x plus 4, which is exactly the same as the one on the left. Once we have proved that it is identity, we can change this equal sign in the middle into an identity sign with 3 lines. This shows that this equation is an identity, and the left-hand side is exactly equal to the right-hand side. Another characteristic is that x could be any value and this equation still holds. So no matter what x you choose on the left side or the right side, they will have the same answer as well. Here's an example. In this question, we need to find the values of a, b, and c. First step is seeing whether we can do any simplification on the equation. On the left-hand side, these are all different terms, unlike terms, on the right-hand side as well. Therefore, we can move on to the second step. Remember, identities is like a lock. We do not move terms from left to right. The second step is simply comparing the coefficients of like terms. For example, on the left-hand side, a is the coefficient of x squared. On the right-hand side, 5 is the coefficient of x squared. Therefore, a equals to 5. b is the coefficient of x. On the right-hand side, 6 is also the coefficient of x. Therefore, b is 6. Lastly, c is a constant term. On the right-hand side, 2 is also the constant term. Therefore, c equals to 2. Here's the next question. This time, the identity is rather short. Still, we need to do the first step, which is checking whether we can do any simplification. Since there are no like terms in either the left-hand side or the right-hand side, we do not need to do any more simplification and move on to the second step, comparing the coefficients of like terms. You may think a equals to -2 and b equals to -3. This answer is wrong. Let us look at this clearly. A is the coefficient of x. Therefore, we need to find a coefficient of x on the right-hand side, which is -3. Therefore, a equals to -3. B is a constant term on the left-hand side. Finding the constant term on the right-hand side is -2. Therefore, b equals to -2. There will be times where the identities are not in order. Therefore, we must find the coefficients in order to find the answer. Question 3. First, we need to see if we can simplify the identity. On the left-hand side, there's nothing that we can add up together. Same on the right-hand side, there is nothing that we can add up together. So we go on to the second step. Comparing the coefficients of like terms to find out the values of p, q, and r. Finding p would be easy. P is the coefficient of x squared. On the right-hand side, 3 is the coefficient of x squared, so p is 3. Q is the coefficient of x. However, on the right-hand side, we cannot find any coefficients of x, so we may not know the answer. That's okay. Let's first move on to r. R is the constant term on the left-hand side. So therefore, we find a constant term on the right-hand side, which is 2. Therefore, r equals to 2. Then what is the value of q? As we can see, on the left-hand side, there are 3 terms. On the left-hand side, there are only 2 terms. We can think of it this way. We can add an additional term on the right-hand side, 0x. This way, both sides have 3 terms. As we can see, q is exactly 0. But normally we do not write 0x. That's why q is just 0. Let's try another example. This question again cannot be further simplified, so we move on to the second step, which is finding the coefficients. By comparing the coefficients of like terms, we can then find the values of a, b, and c. This time we need to be careful. A is rather easy. A is a coefficient of x squared, 3 is a coefficient of x squared, a equals to 3. For b, we can see is a coefficient of x. So on the right side, the coefficient of x is negative 2. However, we need to be very careful. As you can see on the left-hand side, there's a negative sign on b. Therefore, in reality, we actually write it like this. Negative b equals to negative 2. By solving this equation, we find that b is equals to positive 2. Putting back 2 into the left-hand side just makes sense. Lastly, c is a constant term on the left-hand side. Finding a constant term on the right-hand side, 7. Therefore, c equals to 7. All the equations previously do not need to do any simplification. But is that the case for every question? Not here. In here we can see there's already an identity sign, so we do not need to do any terms moving from left to the right. But you can see on the right hand side it is not yet simplified. Therefore the first step is copying down the right hand side. We simplify this by using expansion. First, x times x equals to x squared. Expanding this, x times negative 5 is negative 5x. 1 times x equals to positive x, and then 1 times negative 5 equals to negative 5. With these 4 terms, we now look for any like terms. These 2 terms in the middle are exactly like terms. Negative 5x plus x equals to negative 4x. Until we can no longer simplify, we then move on to the next step, which is comparing the coefficients of like terms to find out the values of a, b, and c. A is the coefficient of x squared. On the right hand side, we can see x squared. We know that there's a hidden 1 here. Therefore, a equals to 1. For b, b is the coefficient of x. On the right hand side, negative 4 is the coefficient of x. So b equals negative 4. C is a constant term. To negative 5, c is negative 5. That's the end of this video. If you have any questions, feel free to ask your math teachers. Goodbye!